I want you to watch something. This is security footage from Varna Airport in Bulgaria, recorded on July 8, 2014. The man you're looking at is Lars Mittank. He's 28 years old from Germany. A few days ago, he was on vacation with his friends, drinking on the beach, watching the World Cup, living his best life. But something happened to Lars on that trip, something that changed him, something that broke him. Watch his eyes, watch how he moves, watch how he keeps looking over his shoulder like something is hunting him. Because in about 30 seconds, Lars Mittank is going to run out of this airport, sprint across a parking lot, jump a fence, disappear into the Bulgarian countryside, and never be seen again. Not by his friends, not by his mother, not by anyone. That was 10 years ago. They're still looking for him. Today, we're going to break down every single detail of this case. We're going to follow Lars from the moment he landed in Bulgaria to the moment he vanished. We're going to examine his injuries, his medication, his phone calls home, and every strange thing he did in those final days. And we're going to try to answer the question that has haunted investigators for a decade. What was Lars Mittank running from? Was it something real, or was it something that existed only in his mind? June 30th, 2014. Summer in Germany, Lars Mittank meets up with 4 of his closest friends at the airport. They've been planning this trip for months. Golden Sands, Bulgaria. It's one of those destinations that young Europeans flock to because the beaches are beautiful, the clubs never close, and everything costs about 1/3 of what it would back home. For Lars, this trip was a chance to unwind. He worked as an electrician, solid job, good money, but demanding. He'd been putting in long hours and needed a break. His friends later described him as excited, relaxed, totally normal. He was cracking jokes in the departure lounge, talking about which clubs they'd hit first, making plans for the week ahead. There was absolutely nothing about Lars Mittank that morning that suggested anything was wrong. 3 hours later, they touched down in Varna. The airport was small, nothing like the massive hubs back in Germany. Just a single terminal, a few gates, and that immediate blast of heat when you step off the plane in a place that's 10 degrees warmer than home. They grabbed their bags, piled into a taxi, and headed straight for Golden Sands. If you've never heard of it, imagine a 5-kilometer strip of beach absolutely packed with hotels, bars, and nightclubs. During the day, it's all sunbathing and swimming. At night, it transforms into one long party that doesn't stop until sunrise. This was exactly what Lars and his friends had come for. The first few days were everything they'd hoped for: sun, sand, cold drinks, late nights. They bounced between beach bars during the day and clubs at night. The 2014 World Cup was happening that summer, and Bulgaria was full of football fans from all over Europe. Germany was playing incredibly well that year, and Lars and his friends watched every match at packed bars, surrounded by fellow Germans, cheering and celebrating. On July 4th, Germany crushed Brazil 7-1 in what might be the most humiliating World Cup semifinal in history. The streets of Golden Sands erupted. German tourists were celebrating everywhere. Lars was photographed that night, arms around his friends, huge smile on his face, not a care in the world. But somewhere in those wild, drunken nights, something was set in motion, something that would lead to Lars Mittank running for his life 4 days later. July 6th, 2014. 2 days before Lars would disappear. It was their last night in Golden Sands before they'd all fly home together. They decided to go big, one final blowout to end the trip. The group hit their favorite beach bar, then moved to a club they'd been to several times that week. By midnight, everyone was drunk, happy drunk. The kind of drunk where you love everyone and everything feels perfect. But at some point during the night, something happened. The details are fuzzy because everyone involved had been drinking heavily. What we know for certain is this: there was a confrontation with another group of tourists. According to witness statements, the argument started over football, Germany versus Bayern Munich. It sounds ridiculous, right? Getting into a fight over club allegiances while on vacation. But football rivalries in Europe run deep, and when you mix that passion with alcohol and national pride during a World Cup year, things can escalate fast. One of Lars's friends said something to another group, or maybe the other group said something to them. Insults were exchanged, tensions rose. What happened next would change Lars Mittank's life forever. In the chaos outside the club, Lars got hit, hard, right on the side of his head, directly on his left ear. Lars's ear was badly hurt. His friends wanted to take him to a hospital, but Lars refused. He said it was fine, just a scratch, nothing to worry about. He didn't want to ruin the last night, didn't want to spend hours in a Bulgarian emergency room when they had a flight to catch the next day. They went back to the hotel instead. Lars took some painkillers, put some ice on his ear, and went to sleep. But when he woke up the next morning, his ear had swollen significantly. It was purple and throbbing. The pain was worse than the night before, not better. Still, Lars insisted on going to the airport with everyone else. He figured he could see a doctor back in Germany if it was still bad in a few days. But at the airport, Lars hit a wall. Airline regulations require medical clearance if you have a visible injury, especially a head injury. The swelling around his ear was obvious, and the airline staff refused to let him board without seeing a doctor first. Lars went to the small airport medical office where a doctor examined him and delivered bad news. His eardrum appeared to be damaged. Flying with a perforated eardrum can be extremely painful and potentially dangerous. The pressure changes during flight could cause severe damage, vertigo, even permanent hearing loss. The doctor wouldn't clear him to fly. His friends had no choice. Their jobs, their lives were waiting back in Germany. They couldn't stay. Lars told them to go, said he'd be fine, that he'd catch a flight in a day or two once his ear healed. They hugged goodbye at the gate. Now Lars was alone in a foreign country where he didn't speak the language, with an injury that was getting worse and no clear sense of when he'd be able to go home. The airport doctor had prescribed him an antibiotic called cefuroxime. It's a common drug used to treat bacterial infections, usually perfectly safe. I'll come back to this medication later because some investigators believe it might be central to understanding what happened to Lars. For now, let's follow his movements. He collected his prescription from a nearby pharmacy, then checked into a small hotel near the airport. Not the resort hotels back in Golden Sands, just a basic, cheap place to sleep while he waited to heal. Lars called his mother, Sandra, that evening. At first, the call was normal. He explained about the fight, the ear injury, the doctor's orders to wait before flying. Sandra was worried, but not alarmed. These things happen on vacation, right? Young guys get into stupid fights, injuries happen, you deal with it and move on. But as the conversation continued, Sandra noticed something. Lars sounded different, not just tired or in pain, but something else. He was speaking quickly, jumping between topics. His voice had an edge to it that she couldn't quite identify. Then he said something that made her blood run cold. He told her he was being followed. 4 men, he said. He'd seen them watching him. They were connected to the fight at the club. He was sure of it. They'd tracked him from Golden Sands, and now they were here, at this hotel, waiting for him. Sandra didn't know what to make of this. Was someone really following her son? Bulgaria wasn't the most stable country in Eastern Europe. Organized crime existed. Maybe the fight had involved the wrong people. Or maybe Lars was just exhausted and paranoid after everything he'd been through. She told him to calm down, to get some sleep, that everything would seem clearer in the morning. Then Lars asked her something strange. He wanted her to look up his medication, the cefuroxime the doctor had prescribed. He wanted to know the side effects. Sandra got on her computer and searched. What she found was concerning, but not necessarily alarming. Like most antibiotics, cefuroxime has a long list of potential side effects. Most are minor: nausea, diarrhea, headaches. But buried in the fine print are rarer psychological side effects: anxiety, confusion, restlessness, and in very rare cases, psychotic episodes including paranoid delusions and hallucinations. These extreme reactions are documented in medical literature, but they're extraordinarily uncommon. Most people take cefuroxime without any psychological effects whatsoever. The call ended with Sandra begging Lars to get some rest and promising she'd book him a flight home for the next morning. But Lars didn't rest. Over the next few hours, he would send her a series of increasingly disturbing text messages. At first, they were just updates. "I'm okay, still at the hotel, haven't seen anyone." Then they got stranger. "I think someone tried my door. Heard footsteps in the hallway. There's a car outside that's been there for hours." And then, "I'm not staying here tonight. It's not safe." At 3 a.m. Bulgarian time, Lars Mittank left his hotel room, but he didn't go far. Just next door to a construction site adjacent to the hotel, he climbed through a gap in the fence and found a hiding spot among the concrete and scaffolding. And there, in the Bulgarian darkness, surrounded by half-built structures and construction debris, Lars Mittank spent the night. He continued texting his mother from his hiding spot. He told her men had tried to enter his room. He told her he could hear them searching for him. He said he could see their flashlights from where he was hiding. Sandra was frantic. She was in Germany, thousands of kilometers away, listening to her son describe what sounded like a nightmare. Was he being hunted? Was he losing his mind? She had no way of knowing. Somehow, Lars survived the night. When dawn finally broke over Bulgaria on July 8, 2014, he emerged from his hiding spot. His mother had booked him on the first flight to Germany. All he had to do was get to the airport, see the doctor for medical clearance, and get on that plane. The airport was right there, visible from the construction site, a few hundred meters at most. Safety was close enough to touch. In her last conversation with Lars, Sandra Mittank told her son that she'd be waiting at the airport in Germany when he landed. She told him everything would be okay. That was the last time she ever spoke to him. July 8, 2014, 9:15 a.m., Lars Mittank walked into Varna Airport. Security cameras captured him entering through the main doors. He looked terrible, haggard, sleepless, but he was there. He was so close. He went to the check-in counter and got his boarding pass for the flight his mother had booked. He went through security without incident, and then he made his way to the airport medical office. Because of his ear injury, he still needed a doctor to sign off before the airline would let him fly. It was just a formality at this point. His ear was healing. He'd waited the required time. There was no medical reason he couldn't board that plane. The doctor on duty that morning was Kosta Kostov. He was an experienced physician who had worked at the airport for years. In interviews after Lars's disappearance, Dr. Kostov described the examination as routine. Lars was nervous, which wasn't unusual for travelers dealing with injuries. His ear showed signs of healing. There was no reason he couldn't fly. Dr. Kostov began filling out the medical clearance form. In a few minutes, Lars would be free to board his flight. In a few hours, he'd be back in Germany with his mother. It was almost over. Almost. And then the door opened. Someone else entered the medical office. According to Dr. Kostov, it was an airport employee, possibly a construction worker or maintenance person, someone who had wandered into the wrong room by mistake. Completely innocent, completely random. Just a man in work clothes who opened a door, realized his error, and started to apologize. But Lars Mittank didn't see a construction worker. What Lars Mittank saw in that moment, we will never know. But whatever he saw, it absolutely terrified him. In a single explosive instant, everything changed. Lars leaped from the examination table, shoved the doctor out of his way, and ran. Not walked, not hurried, ran. Full sprint. Like his life depended on it. Like something was chasing him that only he could see. He burst through the door of the medical office and into the airport corridor. He ran past shops and gates and other travelers who stopped to stare at this wild-eyed man sprinting through the terminal like he was being hunted. Security guards tried to intercept him. He dodged them. Airline staff called out to him. He didn't stop. Lars ran straight for the exit, not toward his gate, not toward safety, toward the doors that led outside, away from the airport, away from the plane that would have taken him home. The security cameras captured every second of it. You can watch the footage online. It's haunting. A man in obvious psychological crisis, running for his life from something that wasn't there. He burst through the automatic doors and didn't stop. Across the parking lot, over a low fence, and then toward the open countryside, toward the sunflower fields and forests that surrounded the airport, and then nothing. Lars Mittank ran into the Bulgarian wilderness and was never seen again. Within minutes, airport security had notified Bulgarian police. Within an hour, a full search operation was underway. Police dogs were brought in to track his scent. Helicopters swept the area from above. Officers on foot searched the sunflower fields, the forests, the farms that dotted the countryside around the airport. They searched for days. They found nothing. Not his body, not his belongings, not a single trace of Lars Mittank. It was as if he had simply evaporated into the Bulgarian summer. The dogs lost his scent less than a kilometer from the airport. After that, there was no trail to follow. Back in Germany, Sandra Mittank waited at the airport for a flight that would arrive without her son. When she learned what had happened, she flew to Bulgaria herself. Over the following weeks, she walked those fields personally, calling Lars's name, hoping against hope that he was alive somewhere, just lost or confused, waiting to be found. She hired private investigators. She worked with German and Bulgarian authorities. She gave countless interviews to media, showing his picture, begging for any information. The case became international news. Lars Mittank's face was everywhere, and yet no one came forward with credible information about where he'd gone. Months passed, then years. The official investigation eventually went cold. Without a body, without evidence of foul play, without any trace of Lars after he entered those fields, there was nothing to investigate. But Sandra never stopped searching. She created a website dedicated to finding Lars. She offered a reward for information. She followed up on every supposed sighting, no matter how unlikely. Over the years, there have been hundreds of reports claiming to have seen Lars Mittank in Brazil, in Canada, in the Philippines, in a dozen other countries. None of them have been confirmed. Most were clearly cases of mistaken identity. Some may have been hoaxes. A few remain unexplained. So what happened to Lars Mittank? 10 years later, there's no definitive answer. But investigators and online sleuths have developed three main theories. The first and most widely accepted theory is that Lars experienced a psychotic break. The combination of his head injury from the fight, the ear damage, sleep deprivation, the stress of being alone in a foreign country, and possibly an adverse reaction to his medication created a perfect storm in his brain. He became convinced he was being followed, saw threats everywhere, and eventually his paranoid delusions drove him to run from an innocent construction worker. If this theory is correct, Lars ran into the Bulgarian wilderness in a state of severe psychological disturbance. He may have collapsed from exhaustion, had an accident, or succumbed to exposure. The second theory is darker. Some believe Lars was right to be paranoid, that he was actually being followed. The fight in Golden Sands may have involved people connected to organized crime, which had significant presence in Bulgaria in 2014. Perhaps Lars saw something he shouldn't have. Perhaps he was targeted for something as random as bumping into the wrong person at the wrong time. Supporters of this theory point out that Lars's paranoia was specific. He described 4 men following him. He didn't report vague anxiety or generalized fear. He reported surveillance. If true, Lars may have been killed after leaving the airport. His body disposed of so effectively it was never found. The third theory offers hope. What if Lars is still alive? People have disappeared before and been found years later, living under new identities, sometimes not even remembering who they originally were. Dissociative fugue is a real psychological condition where people suddenly lose their identity and sense of personal history, traveling to new places and sometimes creating entirely new lives without any memory of who they used to be. If Lars experienced something like this, he could be anywhere in the world right now, living as someone else entirely, with no idea that a mother in Germany has spent a decade searching for him. This theory would explain why his body has never been found. It's less likely than the others, but it's not impossible. Here's what we know for certain. On June 30th, 2014, Lars Mittank flew to Bulgaria for a vacation with friends. He got into a fight. He hurt his ear. He stayed behind when his friends flew home. Over the following days, he exhibited increasingly paranoid behavior, convinced he was being followed. On July 8th, 2014, he entered Varna Airport, passed through security, and went to the medical office for clearance to fly. Something happened in that room that terrified him beyond all reason. He ran. He left behind his luggage, his phone, his wallet, everything. He jumped a fence and ran into the Bulgarian countryside, and he was never seen again. His mother is still waiting for him to come home. His case remains officially open. What haunts me about this case isn't just the mystery of what happened. It's the footage. We can see his terror. We can watch him running. And we still don't understand why. Was his fear based in reality? Were there actually men hunting him through Bulgaria? Or was his own mind the monster he was running from? Either answer is terrifying in its own way. The idea that you could be targeted by criminals for a random bar fight. Or the idea that your brain could betray you so completely that you'd run from your own salvation into the wilderness and vanish forever. Lars Mittank's case reminds us how fragile we are, how quickly everything can change, how easy it is to disappear. If you have any information about Lars Mittank, contact German or Bulgarian authorities. Someone somewhere knows something. And if this case stayed with you the way it stayed with me, hit subscribe and and turn on notifications. Mystery Files covers the cases that keep us up at night, the disappearances that don't make sense, the questions that don't have answers. Yet, I'm still looking for those answers. I hope you'll look with me. Thanks for watching.